Good morning. Am I really loud?
No, you're all right. I was just waiting for you because you always have some sort of issue on here.
I don't. You're the issue. You're the issue.
Tell the three people listening why Sky's not here today.
I don't know. Why isn't she here today?
She went to a more important podcast today.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. What's that noise?
What noise?
It's like a squeaking noise. She went to a more important podcast. She chose a BJJ podcast today instead of ours.
I didn't know that. Getting peace of my mind when I see her. Right. Question number 1 of the PTMA podcast, episode 160 something. If you have ever sacked a client, how have you gone about it?
I've done it in two ways. One way that some people would expect from me, which was quite direct and telling a person what I thought of them and my reasons why, because that was, I'll just say it, that was in and around a payment issue where I had trusted a person who was going to pay me, carried on delivering a service because they needed it, wanted it, and all of that. And they kind of went against that trust. So I told them to fuck off and that they took the piss. So I've done it that way. So it depends on the situation. But I've also done it in a way where I've coached the client to agree that it was best for them to leave, bringing that up in a way of kind of, okay, want a bit of a chat. These are the things that I want a little bit of a chat about. What are your thoughts and feelings on that thing or them points? Where's your head at with them? And most of the time when that's happened, they've gone, can see that it's an issue and understand it. And then therefore, you kind of lead them to an ultimatum of, can you turn that round, or is it best at this moment in time for you to leave? But if you feel like it's best at this point for them to leave, then you need to say that as the kind of the person who running the business, the kind of expert, and the person who obviously, if you don't think that it's going to turn it round, like sit there and go, right, I believe that if we were to carry on this route, it wouldn't be best for both parties. So it's probably best right now that you leave the business and kind of crack on no hard feelings. These things happen, all of that type of stuff. So I've done it on both extremes. It can easily be coached through, but I think it depends on who you are as a person. I think you've got to be a little, if it's got to a point of where you want to sack him, you've got to be a bit assertive in your delivery as the reasons why you want a conversation, the reasons why you think it might be best right now for them to leave. But I would explore that off the back of some questions to see if they've got the self-awareness themselves that it's probably the best decision for them. Anything you would add to that?
No, I'd agree with both of those points. The only reason, I think, also thinking about why you want to sack them, I think is before you do take action on those things, I think it's a good place to kind of have a real deep dive into that. The reason I say that is because it's usually off the back of non-adherence, isn't it? Usually it is. Client's a nightmare, X, Y, and Z. I would definitely explore and think back from a point of view of learning and getting better at these things and be really brutal with yourself in regards to how did you onboard them. Okay, they're not adherent. Why are those things? So use it as well as an opportunity to learn. But no, I think those two points are good and very similar circumstances.
Next question is underrated ways to generate leads in a commercial gym.
The single most underrated way to that aren't used is, and it's an obvious one, is being anything, let's say anything that is proactively going out of your way to engage with people on the gym floor. That is the single biggest thing. We could list off hundreds of different ways of doing that and activities, from health checks, competitions, technique correction, workshops, ad hoc classes, technique sessions, inductions, seminars, webinars. We could go on, right? The single biggest way you're going to, let's call it, disrupt the market in a commercial gym is day in, day out, making people aware of who you are, what you're about, how you can help, understanding the members on the gym floor. The only way you're going to go about that is by actively going up there and talking to people and finding out and being curious. The single biggest thing, underrated way of generating leads is that. Anything you'd add?
The only thing I would add to this is that I really don't want this to come across in a direct way, and it's not direct at the person. I'm going to speak in general to every single gym floor PT in a commercial gym. A lot of the time, it's not your understanding of what lead generation method to use. It's your desire and determination to do something consistently. All of them things that Nick's just rattled off, I'm pretty sure that most PTs would know. How to start them is a different thing. But I feel sometimes that you not taking action on how to start something, for me, is just procrastination of not leaning into something that's pretty uncomfortable. So personally, I'm not directly talking to the person who asked this question. I'm talking in general to every commercial gym PT, is that I would find the desire, so the why behind why you're running your business, the level of goals and stuff that you want to meet, and try and find the internal motivation to do that uncomfortable stuff, because you all know what to do. You can easily make the first step in how to do it, but a lot of the time it's your desire and determination to show up and do it. And imagine it was just them two things that hold your business back, because for the majority of you it really is. Yeah, so sometimes, listen, some of you might need a bit of an arm around you and guided to help you set stuff like that up. Some of you might just need to hear this and give you a kick up the arse to go, actually, I can go out on the gym floor today and do it. And you could, every single one of you could go out on the gym floor today, do some random stuff. Like, I've shared this in the past. I used to fucking love proving personal trainers wrong on workshops and courses that could just go out on the gym floor, play a little game on the gym floor that generates a shit ton of leads. I used to love that, because it used to drop down guards and barriers, and then they were open to being educated for the rest of the day. But it's so easy to do, so easy. But you've just got to have that underlying desire and determination to do it. I think that's what holds most people back, not the what and how.
Next question. Best way to help your new and current clients be aligned with the product you provide. For example, if you're offering small group personal training as a service, helping them see it as a full PT service and not just classes.
Top question, that. And listen, it's sometimes really hard to get your head around, because listening is a skill, and that's what you've got to do a lot of within a consultation, for example. And being present to listen, to understand, and not to respond is also a really difficult skill, especially when all you want to do is help people. But fundamentally, that's the most important part of this. What you're looking to do and what you're looking for as the coach is essentially what the person is currently struggling with, their barriers, their challenges, the complications to meet their goal, their desire and motivation to achieve their goal, right? And you've got to look at listening to all of that in regards to barriers, obstacles, challenges, what they've done in the past, the issues that they've got now, the goals of where they want to go, the underlying internal motivation, the why behind it. You've got to build this big picture. And from that big picture, it's quite easy then to start to align the issues and the goals to the service. So giving you a practical example of this, right? Let's say a client turns around and say they've been, I don't know, yo-yo dieting for years. They often have heightened levels of motivation, and they struggle from an accountability perspective. They struggle to go to the gym on their own, and when they do, it lasts for 3-4 weeks, and then they fuck it off again, right? Just from that response, you can start to obviously delve into it in a little bit more detail, but you can start to go, okay, you've talked a little bit about going on and off to the gym. What causes that? Well, motivation, probably not following a set structure, right? One of the things that I think would be, and this is where you've got to step in as an authority and as a coach and not dictate too much, but one of the things that I think would be great for you is having some form of plan and program that you can follow, whether you're in the sessions or not. Would you agree? Something that will motivate you to come in, even when you don't want to. Yeah, that's something. What that looks like, we'll talk about soon, okay? You've also mentioned about probably not going to the gym consistently over time. Sometimes helps a hell of a lot of my clients is having a set time and set days, and that increases their frequency and therefore adherence, and they become more confident because they're coming to the set time and they can fit it into their schedule. So that's the sessions that we'll do. You've talked about a little bit about and all I'm doing is linking the things that they've said to the service that you have. I've not put a label on it. I've not put any kind of product or service or price there. And then when you summarize at the end of that consultation, you just summarize everything that you spoke about. So you've mentioned this, and I advised that these are some of the options. We explored some options for programming and what that would look like and what that even means, and how you would do certain things away from the gym, in the gym, how I would support with that. I've mentioned this checking thing, and you just link it. I've not said price, small group PT, nothing. We've gone in detail, problems, solution, service. And that for me is kind of how to frame the whole, making sure the right person is on the right service. So to them, doesn't matter if it's small group, doesn't matter if it's one-to-one PT, it's that they've got this coaching service that revolves around seeing you a few times per week, them coming in on their own, their activity away, their accountability method, their nutrition method, and they've built this service around it. And then you can link that to, okay, I call it small group PT. This is what we do, 2 free session. Here it is. This is the price. This is what you need. And then you can explore how long that might take. For me, it's delving into the detail, listening to understand and not to respond, but also supporting them to start to see how all of their problems links to the direct solution of the service that you've got there. Anything you would add? How often should I be contacting my online clients?
It depends on the client. Also, I think depends on the level of service and also the price point as well. So as an example, just reading this person's check-in, what we asked in our check-in was, what do you need more of? What do you need from us this week? And you put maybe a midweek check-in. So the answer kind of goes back to understanding the person as they're coming in. Pretty much what Ant's just gone through in regards to framing the different elements of the service. And people are going to need different levels of support at different times and with different personalities. So the only way you're going to find that out is by onboarding them really effectively, listening to what Ant just went through on the previous question, the answer to the previous question, and constantly being open and curious about the clients and what they need more of, less of, changing up, amending as you go through. So yeah, I know that's not, I'll do it twice a week, because it depends on all those things.
Yeah.
Anything you'd add?
No, I just asked them. Like, honestly, it's the biggest thing that I was not guilty of, because as your saying goes, I'm sure it's not your saying, but you've nicked it. You don't know what you don't know. But it's true, isn't it? Like, I wish someone would have turned around to me, probably even bloody 7 or 8 years in my career, and gone, you know, when you thinking about how often do you communicate and how often you should do accountability, or what accountability looks like, why don't you just ask the client? Like, because you're always in that solution mode of, guy, should I do it this time, that amount a week? Should I do a weekly check-in, a bi-weekly check-in, a monthly review? And you just throw it at them, and it's not your fault. I was the same. I wish someone would have just come to me and gone, why don't you just take the pressure away from you and just go, okay, what does that contact and communication look like? What does the frequency look like? What would get the best out of you? As soon as you have them conversations, it takes the pressure off you, and not the pressure, but puts it on the client, right? So yeah, 100%.
How to maintain rapport with clients that leave or move on?
Good question. I think probably a very general common sense answer is probably booking a bit of time in. Maybe you do it once or twice a month into your schedule to remind yourself to just reach out to them. Nick's really good at this, better than me, to be fair. But yeah, just to reach out and how are you, that type of stuff, how's things going, make it specific to them so it doesn't look like a generic blanket message that you've sent everyone at the same time. So I think that goes a long way, personally. Having them on stuff like your email list and maybe in groups or whatever, I think is important, because they still see inside the business and potentially what they're missing. But for me, as common sense as this might be, and you probably already knew the answer, for me, reaching out with a bit of a personalized message to see how they are and check in with them as a person goes a long, long way. Like, a long way. Like, I'm very much in the camp of, like, if you're a coach, like, if you're working with people on a one-to-one level, you should really know them, their family, their kids' names, what they're doing at work, what's happened, all of that type of stuff, and what they're into, hobbies, interests, all of that type of stuff. Like, there's many a time that I can be watching a sport and it'll come up with, let's say, there'll be a person that comes up in my mind that used to be a client of mine, and I'll just go, do you know what, I'm just going to check in with them and see how they are and if they watch that or whatever. So I think you've got lots of common ground if you're coaching effectively and really understand your clients to speak about. So if you just reach out about that common ground and ask how they are, I think it goes a long way. Anything you'd add, Nick? How often should you directly be advertising your business, like posting that you have spaces or the link to enquire?
Let me think about how. I actually think it depends on how much you've shown up previously and during. So I think it's like anything, you don't want to ask without giving. So I think when you talk about consistency of showing up on social media and giving good value and connecting with the audience, etc., you've got to do that first before you ask people to do stuff. I think depending on that frequency and depending on the needs of the business, I think you should be doing at least like a couple of times a month, at least, because if you're not being clear on that you have got spaces open or you are looking for clients or people can get in touch in this way, then people aren't going to magically come up and walk up to you and hand you a big wad of cash over. So I think you've got to put it out there. I think you've got to get used to doing that as well and get comfortable with doing it. And I also think it depends on what kind of things you're trying to help people with as well, because it might naturally lead to like getting in touch or filling in the form or whatever it may be. But I think you should be asking for engagement weekly, all the time. I think you should be asking for people to inquire when there's rhyme and reason to, and once you've given first, at least a couple of times a month. That's quite a generic answer, but anything you'd add?
No, I think the only thing I would add is just be very conscious that a lot of coaches don't do this enough. So if you feel like you're doing it too much, you're probably not. Like, it's the quickest route for the majority of PTs to get new people into their business off the back of that is share outcomes, share results, share a way into your business for people to take action on in regards to the inquiry point. So yeah, a lot of PTs put a lot of value out without sometimes asking for the business. So just be conscious of if you feel like you're doing it and all of that, because it's so uncomfortable sometimes for people, you're probably not doing enough. But you've got, like Nick just said, you've got to earn the right to do it. Next one.
Best time for a PT taster week. Got it planned for December, but might delay till Jan to catch new gym newbies.
Personally, I wouldn't delay it. If you've got it in your mind now and it's an easy thing for you to switch on, market and take action on, I wouldn't delay it. There's nothing stopping you doing it in both months, depending on what work you've got on and how life is at the moment and all of that type of stuff, because at the end of the day, you're still adding something in, aren't you? But personally, I think delaying it for January, it's neither here or there. I think if you've got the work, you've got the capacity to do it now, just get it done. And what you'll find is that the majority of PTs in commercial gyms, because I know he works in one, start to wind, well, let's be honest, most PTs in a commercial gym fucking wind down on lead generation all year round, but they start to wind down on it more so in December because they think no one's going to buy, no one's in there, all of that type of stuff. So whilst everyone else is winding down, you accelerate it, you watch the results off the back of that in Jan, Feb. It's about as simple as that. So yeah, I would crack on with it if I was you. I've lost all the bleeding questions, Nick. And it was an NA one. Fantastic. And another one, NA one.
Mm-hmm.
And another NA one. Why does no one want to ask questions this week? Definitely piss. And another one. Flipping it.
You know, this is amazing listening. This is.
Okay. What resource? Shut up. All right. If I've got to sit through your long half an hour pauses, you can sit through me finding questions. What resources, books, podcasts, etc., would you recommend for ongoing learning and professional?
Podcasts. Okay, books. Off the top of my head.
What you were going to do podcasts and I was going to do books.
Psychology of Money, motivational interviewing in sports and nutrition. I can't remember the exact title.
Nutrition and fitness, actually. Clifford Curtis.
Jab, Hook by Gary Vee. Loads upstairs. Go on, add some books in. Coaching Habit. Yeah.
Very good book. And the only other book I'd say, because we give loads and don't need any more. Changemaker's quite good by John Berardi. I think a lot of PTs, especially fairly new PTs within the first 3 years, would benefit from that. Changemaker. Yeah. Podcasts.
Don't stop listening to podcasts.
Difficult when this one's so good, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
No. What else do you need?
I know.
What else do you need? I don't actually listen to any podcasts for professional development anymore. Ones I did, let me have a look.
It's a shame that Lift the Bar isn't doing podcasts anymore, because they used to be really good for PTs, didn't they?
Yeah. I would definitely go back and listen to all of them. Grace Beverley, earlier ones were quite good. Now it's not much business related now, but the earlier ones were. I think you can take a lot from high performance podcasts, from like leadership and coaching and mindset. I think PFCA, some good ones in there. Early ones, like these are good now. Like I listened to his one with Connor Ben the other day.
How was
They're
that?
more interview. It's
I'm
good.
not being funny, but he was a proper tool last weekend.
What, Connor Ben?
The whole thing was horrific. That's so set up, that fight, it's unreal.
I haven't listened to any of his for a while. The Obvious Choice by what's her face? John, someone. I can't remember his name. John Goodman. Bloody hell.
Go and listen to John. No, don't listen to him.
Goodman.
PT Project. Apparently that's good. I'm looking at the ones that are in the group. Some dodgy ones, I'm not going to lie now. Depends what you're into, I suppose. The FMA one is pretty good, but very much towards like groups and gyms. Parallel coaching, someone else has put in the group. Seb put the Elite Coach podcast for coaching, and then the Co-cast for business. That's it. It's enough. There's definitely a gap in that market. Good coaching business / whatever, because there's not many out there now. What's the next question?
There's one for Sky actually. She's not here, is she?
Well, she's not now. I don't know if anyone knows this, but she decided not to turn up today and go to another podcast. So bad. Disciplinary, that, isn't it?
Send that one to her to do. How would you go about encouraging clients to set goals on their terms, personal to them?
How would I go about encouraging clients to set goals on their terms, personal to them? Okay, so it all boils down to the questions that you ask them. So let me try and give a practical example, right? So starting with a blanket one, which is what are the outcomes, or what do you want to achieve from this? And you might put, let's say, what do you want to achieve in the next X time, right? And then I would dig into, okay, off the back of that, what would be the markers and milestones that you would see as being a success? So yes, you've got this goal, but along the way, what are the individual markers and milestones that would be, let's say, monthly success? And then I would go look into it and go, okay, so the first one is getting to the gym 4 times per week. Amazing. Off the back of that, what could get in the way of that? How could you overcome it? And then you've now got a list of things like things that they could put in place to help them overcome things. You've got goals, and there's a set structure to how they view and measure success. So what would good look like to you in that month? Like, what would be something that you would be really proud of that you took action on that month and moved you forward? So them types of questions bring it out. I think sometimes, and a lot of you will probably already know the questions I've just asked, and you probably ask them questions, but the important part of that is the fact that I've not got someone to have a conversation with it. So when you're having a conversation with people, you can dig into them a little bit more and go, okay, so you've said this, right? What would be so good about that? Like, what would make you so proud of you that you've done that? Okay, and what would you need to double down on and nail down in order for that to happen? So it very much comes off the back of, similar to my other answer before, really listening. Because sometimes we can go, what's the outcome you want to achieve? Okay, off the back of that, how long would you want that to take? What would be the milestones along the way? And we move on in our questions when really we could just double down a little bit more and get the markers of success. So they're going, yes, I've got this big broad goal, but actually this is now cut down into micro goals on a weekly level. That if I just do that and that would be a good week, and that's what I'm proud of. And let's be honest, if we're looking to support clients' motivation, them little small wins on a weekly basis builds competence in a big way. So yeah, and then it's about your questioning, like your weekly reviews on how they like celebrate the wins, like what went well this week is a great question, but it might be to some people what you're really proud of off the back of them first 7 days. towards your goal. Well, I did this, 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 and I know if I carry on doing that, it's going to achieve that milestone that I've set at this point. So yeah, for me, it comes back down to you questioning. It comes back down to you shutting up and listening and not suggesting, and them being clear on them personal markers of success. Anything you would like to add to that, Nick?
The only thing I'd add in is setting that conversation up. I think you can think about that a little bit. Yeah, that's the only thing.
Okay, really good question to finish. Really good. How to recognise when you are self-sabotaging and how to overcome it and get it into a more positive headspace with having more pressure. I feel like I get to a certain number of clients and stop doing all of the things that I used to because I don't know if I can actually handle that many more. I think this is subconsciously making me hold myself back, and a reason why I always seem to get to the same point in business and drop back. I know the reasons why, but why is it so hard to push through it?
Fear of failure, probably the top one, I would say. I think you've taken the first step because you're aware of it. So I particularly think this is subconscious right now, which is good because, again, it's awareness of what you're doing. And I think, breaking that down, however you want to break that down, some people it will be, right, we'll make a list of consequences of repeating this process now, and then also what are the pros and cons of pushing through, because you've got to stress test your business to a certain point, haven't you? Like it's like us sitting here and going, right, it's like you starting out, as a different example, and going, right, how many hours is too many hours for me to deliver coaching? Well, you don't know until you kind of stress test that and maybe do a few too many. And you think, oh, right, I've got to scale this back, or I've got to reorganize my diary, or I've got to do this, do that. So right now, I think you're aware of it. I think it's great awareness. And I think going back to your goals and where you want your business to be and what you want your business to provide you with and what you want your business to provide your clients with, I think is probably a good place to start. And I also feel that, you don't know what's too much until you kind of push through that and play around with those kind of limits. Do you know what I mean? So I think the only way you're going to find that out and know is by doing it personally. But yeah, I think I would break that down, however way you want to do that, whether it's writing a list, whether it's thinking about the consequences of staying put or moving forward. I think going back to your goals is going to probably help as well a little bit. And also, I think the taking action part is you've got to push through to know whether it's too much or not. What's the worst going to happen at that point? So I think you've already recognised that you're probably self-sabotaging. Although that's a strong word, maybe.
No. I think the person who asked the question has never been as aware and process driven as they are now. So I actually think the difference is in the past, time management, priority management, process management was the issue, not necessarily pushing through, if that makes sense. So whereas in the past, the business allowed you to get busy and then drop the things that got you busy and then take a step back. So it might be a mindset thing, and I'm sure it is part of it. But I actually think that maybe the infrastructure of the business, of how it runs with kind of a bit of routine and all of that, has never been better from a process management perspective. So I actually think that now your business is in a position that if you allow yourself to happen, that it will break through that naturally. Whereas in the past, it probably wasn't. So I think that's maybe, from outside looking in, more of the issue than it is mindset. I'm not sure.
All done? Done.
Any final thoughts then?
No, not really, actually, today. Have you got any, Anthony?
I haven't actually, no. I've just got lots to do. Should we do an Instagram live?
If we're going to do it now.
All right then. See you in a bit, everyone.